Hello, everyone. Welcome to LARP Raw. I almost said the D word.
Oh no.
Um, here we have Lord Bova with us. You will recognize him from LARP Review, and we have a really wonderful topic today. We are going to be talking about latex LARPs, and not just latex LARPs, but a bit of the controversy that America seems to have against latex LARPs. So why don't you say hi, Lord Bova?
Hey guys, I'm Jake Bova. You might know me as Lord Bova from the LARP style play. Like, that's the intro for the other video. That's okay. They might hear that one.
That's fine.
But yeah, I've been playing LARPs since I'm gonna guess, well, 2011. So it's been like 10 years or so, give or take. But I did some like high school stuff with some buddies. We got together after watching what was it, Role Models, right? Role Models was the movie we all watched. It was like that's the shit we're doing. Me and my buddies got together doing that. We got PVC pipe, pool noodles, and duct tape, and we got like 300 high schoolers on the field at like without parental supervision, just swinging bullshit at each other. It was not safe. Cops were called. We had a great time.
Cops called you doing something right.
Oh no, they loved it. They loved showing up and being like, "What's going on? Is there an adult here?" And we're like, "No, we haven't organized anything. Just showing up here with basically sticks.
Yeah.
Are we cool?" And they're like, "Yeah, I guess."
Like, yeah, we just told there might be a murder taking place, so
It looked like there was a murder being place, that's for sure. Um, but I did that for a couple years, and then I went to RAG in 2011. My first DAG anything. I used the D word, I'm sure, whatever. But that was my first introduction to like organized LARP. Was going to Ragnarok as my high school senior trip with me and my buddies. We knew like, oh, we were into all this. We saw some photos online, and we're like, let's go get drunk in the woods with a bunch of nerds. And we thought, oh hell yeah, we're all captains of different like sport teams and stuff like that. Like we're gonna like own these nerds and stuff like that. We showed up. I don't think I got a single kill that week. I
ass
don't,
whooped.
nobody did, but we all were like captains of like tennis and cross country, and we even did like a couple some parkour stuff there. So we're like doing flips around each other, trying to do like some weird ninja moves. And it worked.
Lord, yeah.
I don't think I know how to still do any of those moves, but it was cool. So I did that for gosh, years and years and years until they till after college where I went up to Bigling for my first time and decided, hey, I'd go work up there. A guy was offering me a job up there. I went to go film a documentary. That was my major in college, just film and everything like that. So went up there, hung out for a couple of years, got to see what the rest of the wider world was doing with LARP, and I came back as if I saw the Holy Land or the face of God. I was like, guys, you don't know shit. How did we
Yeah.
not? Why are we doing anything down here? Like everything up there is so much better, but
Prettier.
I'm also looking at brand new, eyes. So, there's obviously like layers to everything. There's magicians with the curtains in the back there trying to figure out what the hell's going on behind the scenes. Um, but just going up there with a documentary, talking to the game runners, the guys who own the land, the people who have been doing that for the past 25 years, and just seeing like what how it started, where it's going, and how everything is managed up there was super eye opening. Back down to America. I think I got off the plane in Toronto and I was on like a 2 hour phone call with one of my LARP buddies who was like, all right, how's it work? Gotta give me a call. And I'm like almost missing my flight. Like, holy shit, dude, I have to go. Like, I'll talk to you when I get home. But like, he wanted to like debrief me as soon as I got off the plane. It was ridiculous.
Always
But
fun.
yeah,
So
that's.
so I think everyone's kind of at like this is something I've been interested in. So
Mhm.
you're definitely I would say an advocate from what I've seen for higher quality outfits and weapons. Like
Sure.
with the new photo set, anyone that's been following it has seen of you looking extra bougie. And come try, they're not come try a LARP. Sorry, your LARP review series of all the different weapons and everything, and a lot of those are latex. But you always seem to pick out all the very high quality efficient things, not the super like, oh, I'm going to go spend $600 on a, very pretty sword that doesn't really do anything for my kit. It seems to be that marriage of practicality and beauty for you now. Is that more of a Bicklin thing, or do you just like looking pretty?
Generally speaking, I just like but the whole idea with the LARP review stuff was well, we're doing our own super LARP thing down here in Columbus, our own little secret LARP. If you all know the Thundercast people and the Vassal thing that's going on in Ohio, Michigan, Indiana. Like we're trying to do our own little flavor of that here in Columbus. I'll get into that later, but we did a group order from Dark Knight Armory, and I got this big, cardboard box came in with like, a couple gambesons, some swords, some knives, some armor, and I was like, hey, I need to do a product review video on this. Like, this is so cool. Like, I might as well just give it a shot. I'm bored. It was like snowing outside. I was like, I'm not doing anything today. I really just should just like flex my video muscles and see how it works. And that kind of sparked this interest in finding, what good stuff is there online? Because obviously we all, started out looking at collectibles, our Dark Knight armories, those epic armory stuff, right? But we're not sure about like what these things are and what they look like or what's the quality of them. Like, do these shoes fit or are they going to break apart? Like, there's a lot of cool looking. There's a lot of cheap stuff online. So what's good and what can I take off the rack and turn into something new, or we're going to find the basis of, so I start building kits with actual artisans and crafters and stuff like that. Because a big thing when I started DAG was they instilled on me like, hey, you have to know how to build everything before you get on the field. And like big proponent of everyone's like shitty garb and stuff like that is like, hey, the $20 garb challenge, which that's fine, that's a great thing, I love that.
Yeah.
Thing. But it's also asking people, and I should say, but it's asking people to run before they learn how to walk. So the idea of, hey, you need to know how to build your own sword. Hey, you need to learn how to make this stuff for yourself. The need to do it is unnecessary, and it's super unapproachable by mass audiences. So I do marketing on the side. So a lot of this stuff is coming to the marketing brain of like, how does somebody who's brand new to this product, this theme, this idea get involved? So off the rack LARP equipment, the cheap stuff. I got to figure out what's good and what's not. I share that with the people so that they can see like, oh, great, I know this guy in here has like no reviews, but Jake did a video on it, so it's probably okay, right? And I love that. I love the idea of like building a comprehensive list of like what pants and what shirts and what shoes are okay, so that somebody about to jump into this LARP can walk on the field looking good, and then maybe later they can introduce themselves to an artisan or crafter or something like that because they're new. They don't want to meet people. They're too nervous to like raise their hand and say like, oh, I don't know how to fucking make a T-tunic. Like, oh, I get it, dude. I don't know either. but like, it's find your stuff online. It's super easy. It's cheap. Like the most expensive piece of gear I have is I got a gambeson from Steel Mastery for like $300, and those robes that you're all talking about, there's like $4,000. So that's
really, I thought they were like off the shelf, and then you guys went and like modified them. The modifications were what cost so much.
Super stuff, like huge stuff. Emily, she's one of the headmasters, one of the admins for the Columbus game. She spent 40 hours on each robe, and just one. She's a tailor by trade. She's a crafter, she's an artist, right? So she's putting in like the amount of work that you would expect somebody to be doing at Weta, right, or any other like film company on this stuff, and going above and beyond because she thinks that the rest of the world is going to like trounce on her. And it turns out while we're watching the video from Bale, number 2 place was a fantastic dress, and everybody else did a great job. I don't want to make you feel like they did a job. Like the second place was a fantastic dress with a lot of feathers and detailing, but that person only made 1 outfit. Emily made 3, so
yeah,
she wins by default. If you can do 1 good one, that's great. But Emily did 3.
And I do definitely like that the 3 different outfits do all have their own small things. Like yours is more. I think there's like some silver embroidery on there, or maybe gold or something.
Yeah,
While
it's like stud work on the sleeves and stuff.
yeah,
like that.
and while Sif has like, I think she has more like the lacing over the entire thing is more intricate. I think I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm like trying to pull the picture from my head and I just can't see it. I'm just like, wow, there's a lot of really good looking people in this picture. Shit.
That was probably us stacking. That was making sure we had a good hand when we post these
Yeah.
photos.
Most definitely.
Make sure that we've all done some photo shoots together before, so
Oh yeah.
it all works out. But yeah, so that's the idea behind the LARP review stuff. Is one, no one had that name before, so
Yeah, definitely a good one.
So I grabbed that one up real quick and then just decided, hey, I do a weekly series on some bullshit that you find online, anything I would buy, and it's been pretty good. But with the COVID happening, it's a lot easier to like save money and put money down on your hobbies, right? I mean, I'm not going out to drinks or meals or anything like that, so spend that money elsewhere and make a couple of fun videos. And eventually, I'm sure I'm going to end that video series or something like that, but only when it's just big fun.
It's always ridiculous to me how many people take it so seriously. Like even when I started doing videos, so many people like climbed out of the woodworks for so many different reasons, because their kid didn't make it in the video, because they thought the armor review I did or the pieces I took for that video were too centralized around one theme when it was centralized around that theme. Like so many different people came out with criticism that like I by like I think the fourth video, I had one of my friends type out like she typed out a whole like thing that was basically like disclaimers that people had just been like upset about, like, hey, I can say anything, don't submit your friends' photos without their permission, understand like what this is, read the text and like read the rules before jumping in it, because if I say, hey, show me a picture of all three of you, of like three of your unit mates together, and they send one of them alone, like I'm obviously not going to use it. And then sometimes they message me and say, hey, why didn't you use it? And I have to say, hey, did you read what the post said? And then they go back and they realize, oh no, I didn't. But it just kind of circumvented a lot of those things. So I definitely feel where you're coming from with like people coming, like jumping out at you. Like it's not supposed to be done right or wrong. It's supposed to be fun, just as you said, and it's supposed to be informational. And I think that what you've already shown me with your videos is that it is fun and it is informational. I'm learning stuff, and I'm able to make much more educated opinions and choices based on what you've said, from off the shelf gambesons. I remember the kettle helm. The kettle helm ended up being like pretty large. I remember being like, well, I don't really have a large head, so that's not necessarily something I should jump for. It was informational and it was perfect for me because I was looking at kettle helms during that time. So
no, I definitely have even like the throwing knife you reviewed. I was looking at that before you reviewed. I'm like, man, I don't know if I want one of these. And you're like, yeah, no, it's really floppy and it's safe to throw. And I'm like, okay, I might have to get this. So you definitely helped even me out, like getting it, because I mean I don't really do a whole lot of synthetic LARP because I'm newer to LARP. I've only been doing this for about 4 years now, give or take. With the pandemic 3, because last year doesn't count. But hopefully with the whole vaccinations being effective enough that you can go and do gatherings, we can start all LARPing again. We're about to that point. About to that point where we can start having events and I can finally go up and hit this guy in the face with a sword.
Oh yeah, I mean I think by the time we post this video here, I mean Ohio is what was it, in June. In June we'll be good, apparently, right?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, but like every day starting to look a little better. So I mean we'll get a head start. I mean we're not expecting to put anything on the field in Columbus until spring of 22, right?
Yeah.
Because this little season will be our beta, right? So
Yeah.
we'll be in the backyard, in the hot tub, grill, and stuff like that, just like sparring.
that's
have
more
you
like an
friends get
alpha.
together?
Come on, that's an alpha, not a beta. You haven't hit
Okay,
the beta
alright.
phase yet.
They'll get
We're on
there. He'll get there.
pre-pro.
Well, if
No,
you want to talk about that, we would love to hear. After what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say I don't think it's if he's that early, he probably might not want to say anything because it's all subject to change, and he might get kicked out for being too good looking and too good at what he does. So it's just horrible things like that will happen. But
Sure. I can talk a little bit about it. I mean, there's stuff that we're doing right now, at least that's public-ish, right? So it's you can find us, and I'm sure we'll throw a link below or something like that. It's the Collegium Tenebris Servi. It's like Latin for the College of the Dark Stag. It's our symbol is actually a white stag. There's a
sounds kind of edgy to me, homie. Not gonna lie.
it has its own lore reasons. So the theme and setting is Warhammer Fantasy, which I know is a huge thing for LARP. I mean, yeah, there you go. We got one.
Yeah. One of y'all. One of y'all.
Yeah, you're good. But it's huge. Like a lot of LARPers love that theme. They love that setting. Bickling is in that setting. Swordcraft in Australia, Drachenfest, Mythodonia. A lot of them are based. If they don't want to admit it, they have a primary base in the Warhammer IP. And it's a rich, fun IP. I don't need to sell you on it. I mean, anything you want to do has some sort of place there, right? You want to be a mummy, they got that. You want to be a rat person, they got that. You want to be a lizard, dragon, hobbit, there's options, right? Anything or you want to be a Japanese fighter. They got the Islet of Nippon from Cathay. There's so much stuff to do, and they've been doing models and figurines and visual references for all these things since the 80s.
Yeah, so, way back.
Options. But anyway, we're doing that little setting, and it's primarily a artisan guild. So we make mead and wine. We make armor. Emily is our headmaster for sewing, and she's doing the Bergschneider virtually with us, and she's going to be teaching us how to sew and integrate stuff into our kits. So it's all pretty much based on like what crafts. At least that's part of the college. And that's going to be sitting in its own sort of like, I don't want to call it Neo or Atari, but it's its own little administrative group within the Columbus LARP group. It's a working title. We'll figure something out. Might be something classier. Might keep it as that. We'll figure out what marketing likes. Which is me, so I'll figure out what I like. But it's the primary like weapon basis is going to be latex weapons, and we can get into that later about like why we like latex versus Boffer. But we're gonna have a list of pre-approved vendors with weapons and stuff like that. So if somebody going in can know, hey, I'm gonna be able to take the field no matter what because this thing showed up on my doorstep. That's awesome, great, you're good. Primarily, a huge focus on trying to elevate the idea of kids. Like if you have sneakers, cover them. Get your snapbacks off the field. I don't want to see the shimaga, whatever, fucking scarves. All right, it's not difficult, and that's why the LARP review videos are there too, so you can find outfits that are like these things aren't expensive. And I don't want to say like, oh, the $20 challenge, right? Like, but you can go online. I mean, everything's online. Go get it. It's cool. And if you don't want to do it, okay. I'm not going to try to like compete with DAG. A lot of the things that we're doing for our combat stuff is going to be different than DAG, than Bell, than AMPS, because I don't necessarily want to take from them, but I understand that there is an accessibility barrier that people like my wife who can't fight on the field, not just because, for any like health concerns or reasons, but she gets immediately weight classed off when a guy like me comes up with a shield, pushes her down, makes her eat dirt. I don't need that. I don't need that. And that's okay. If somebody likes that, I'm not saying that you're wrong for liking it. I'm saying when I notice that you on the field, you have a tendency to do it, I'm not going to punish you. I'm going to say, hey, you're really good at that. You should go hang out with, and they meet on these days. Let's go ahead and keep this community alive and thriving, because I don't want to take it from their group. Although I'm sure when I open up, people from over there will be like, oh, I wanted to do this. Well, yeah, we're going to have crossover. It's going to happen. It's going to be okay. We're going to try doing something different. Every other Boffer game's trying to make the best chicken sandwich, and I'm going to try to make pizza. So,
I mean, there's definitely a big difference between Boffer and like latex LARP. I've noticed a lot of latex LARP even like the one I was supposed to be at this week, but with the whole gas shortage and people being idiots and taking all the gas on the route I was going to drive, I'm okay. I'm not mad. I am incredibly pissed off. But no, I mean, I was supposed to be down there, and they're actually doing stuff even today right now. Like I think there's actually a bunch of fighting going on today down. But then there was supposed to be political intrigue and everything else, and that was conflict of idea. I was really excited. Now I'm not there, so what are you gonna do? Life happened. But that was definitely a lot more on the political side, on like the political, inter faction warfare, and like everyone's factions are all the same. So like if you were a samurai, you were in the Amatsu Alliance. If you were a elf or fae, you were in Silverglade, and yada yada. And with COVID, there definitely wasn't enough. There's not a whole lot of numbers going right now with the gas shortage and everything. It sucks. Life sucks right now. We can't hit each other with sticks. But I definitely like latex LARP myself because you get to, have something that looks almost like a sword, and you can, go, this is a sword. I'm going to cut you with this. I'm not going to smack you with it. I'm going to cut you with it. There's definitely...
it looks a lot better than this
compared
to that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
okay.
There was something that I read in Damarung's rule book, and Damarung is one of the other ones that sprouted up recently, like right before the pandemic, and they said, hey, we like latex and like more realistic looking weapons, here's why. And so one of the reasons was that it elicits a clear reaction. You see it as a sword and it becomes more threatening than something that looks like a canoe paddle. So
yeah,
someone draws a dagger on you, you're going to take it that much more seriously when it looks like a dagger. And obviously it's not a real dagger. And in your heart that you're not going to actually get, hurt here. But it helps one much more easily immerse themselves in that situation of someone's pulled a knife on me when it looks like a knife. And you have to worry about this knife.
Also, stuff just looks better with armor.
I agree.
Yeah, that was one of the cool things up at Big Lane that they had their own versions of like assassin tournaments and stuff like that, right? Which is a lot cooler when you're walking around the field and you can just like, what's up?
Yeah.
Whereas
Knife.
that would have been like a big ball at the end of a stick, and it's a lot harder to do. I think one evening I was walking to the Old Town Tavern, and you guys will know the place if you've been there. Me and my group were a bunch of Australians and stuff like that, all went together in the same group. I had some guys rush up to me because I was their captain. Like, hey, Bova, what's going on? Well, hey, keep it down, right? I think we're being followed. So we're like bouncing between taverns, watching as like hooded figures are also at the same taverns. And then it got to the point where we just had to like, see like, hey, you strapped? I'm like, who was strapped?
Yeah. Bruh.
And we had to corner this guy, push him up against the wall, and it was all very like thematic, right? But it felt real. It felt real to us, right? It wasn't just like a whole like, oh, now we're going to initiate the scene where this happens. Like, no, this dude followed us to a bar after 2 other bars and a restaurant and different alleyways. And he followed us in there, and I was the decoy, and my buddy, what was his Huck. Huck, he pushes the guy up against the wall and pulls a knife on his throat like, what are you following us for, huh? The guy didn't speak any English, which is great.
which is good. It's cool. It's
It's so cool, right? So you walk down the street and you assume like everybody's talking about like, what's going on in sports or like a meme or whatever. But as far as you know, I don't speak French, so it's all in game.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, French is the main language over there, right? Like, because
that's up north. Mm-hmm. But we pulled a knife on him. The guy can't speak French. He was like, "Well, it's a lot easier if I just do this and just cut his throat."
which is just fun. I mean,
the bar got quiet. We had to like buy a round of drinks for everybody. It was super Mos Eisley canteen.
Oh yeah, it's just like, did you just kill that guy? Yeah. Shut up, have a drink.
The LARP weapons look super rad. They're so cool, and there's an added level of safety to them. Right? It's the thing I was talking about stuff. Like they ask you to run before you learn how to walk, right? They're learning how to build your own stuff. A lot of the gear that you see on the field right? I mean, sure, you're going to have your orbs and your forge films and your stuff like that. A lot of it's, garage weapons, basement weapons. The Dap Walrus is in their brain weapons, right? I don't need that kind of shit on the field when they're all swinging at each other at full force and some guy's, backyard buster decides to break somebody over. Like, no, I trust where this shit comes from. Right? It's all the same. It's all manufactured the same way. And I understand. Yeah, Bruce doing a great job. Mass-produced streamlined. Awesome. This is just the same thing. It's the same. You go there, you buy it, you show up, it's good. I don't need to worry that the new person showed up with maybe an arrow that had a tip. Holy crap, right? No, good.
I did see about that. I think that was an Amp-Guard field where that happened, where the weapons checker took the head off the arrow, and there was a tipped arrow under the foam head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
People not being smart.
Yeah.
Or there was a weapons checker that wasn't checking weapons correctly, and a guy had put an actual metal sword in there, and he just went, or he just shoved it down into a wooden table or some shit. Yeah, that was bad. That was a bad one. That I know, that shit's, but that happens. But with this, it's that's definitely late. That's squishy. That's latex. It's not real.
You can kind of trust it. You have the ability to have the was a plausible deniability of you were told that this is all made in a factory on an assembly line to a distinct mold and everything like that. The builders of that, Kalamazoo, Epic Armory, and Michael, they all have product insurance.
Yep.
So if something happens with those, you can point to the weapon manufacturer and say go take it up with Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
If you get hurt, it's one. I mean, we all sign those little paper thin waivers that don't actually do anything. But the idea that these weapons are insured to a degree means that you can take some liability off your fighters. And if somebody gets super hurt, and it always happens, everybody else gets hurt. It happens, right? It's something we all do. Even at Big Lane, there's still an ambulance on site just in case someone rolls their ankle. But if a weapon works to break somebody, they know who to contact.
Yeah. No, right? And another thing I found with latex, it's usually it's not sufficient force. It's just it's more role play heavy in a lot of games. Sure. It's more. Did that feel if I get a good draw cut on your throat, you're dead, right? But that guy with in DAG, that guy wouldn't be dead. He would if he were to slice his throat, it'd be whatever. He's not sufficient force. He didn't impact and blah blah. He
was cool, right? He was one of those cool fighters who would have taken it. But no, totally. Up at Big Lane, that was one of the big things that I had to learn really quick was what we called what we do at DAG sufficient force, right? We call it sufficient force, but really what we're doing is max force kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Right? We're making sure. It depends, park to park, field to field, fight to fight. But you're always going to have somebody out there who will do a home run swing, and everybody will be like, "Yeah, but that's what we're doing." There is a max force barrier on every LARP outside of America.
Yep.
I don't know what it is about Americans, but we all think we're built differently, where these things aren't super common, and we have different rules than everybody else. We're doing a lot of our combat fighting off of what Swordcraft in Australia does. They're a big metropolitan game that has fights every Friday night, super focusing on good outfits and stuff like that. But they have a pretty good battle game. Same with Big Lane. They have a battle game. It's very good. A couple rule differences that you're going to find out that are weird, all right, but you're going to be able to meld into it. But this is just all sufficient force stuff, right? As long as the other person feel it. It's not just tap fighting. Oh, that too wrong already. But it's not just tap. You actually have to feel the hit, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to.
Yeah. Definitely, there's definitely a big difference with just overall the aesthetic of it all and the general feel of a fight. It feels like there's more. It's more immersive. It's not more realistic, but it's definitely more immersive. That axe that you had that was a big bone axe. That thing's gonna be really weird if it hits you. But I just got hit with an axe. I'm dead. I'm just gonna take it. Whatever. Yeah. I'm not sure if it because it kind of bounced off, but whatever. I'm dead. That was cool. Whatever. I'm dead. Just easy.
I wanted to interject and just say, basically, the way I look at these things is that both things have something to offer everyone in their own way. And I think that what you said about the field interaction, if you see someone like steamrolling people, not like with their skill, but like physically with their body, you don't say like get off the field. You say, hey, you might like it better in these groups. It's the idea of like that positive reinforcement that really helps out. A lot of people can get defensive if they figure out they've done the wrong thing and then people are upset. Obviously, being upset at someone for doing the wrong thing isn't out of like the ordinary. It's okay to be upset. But I think one of the things it comes down to is something that I always talk about, which is don't make your game like their game. Like you want every game to have its own thing. So if Hearthlight and Amtgard suddenly kind of like end up like this, I won't like that as much as if they're doing this. Each one will have their own thing to give, and each one will have their own facets. So Amtgard will have like magic, maybe it'll have more roleplay stuff. It has a ton more like different levels of armor, and it'll have like different things to offer. It's the idea that the LARP that you're doing, Vassal, which is upcoming, these things are all going to have their own things to offer, whether it be a combat experience, maybe it's a political experience. I know Vassal is trying to do much more like politics, I think. And each one of those LARPs will offer something. The more diversity we have, the more we can find our niche, the more we can find out, oh, hey, I don't actually like this like full contact hitting stuff. I like it when it feels a little more theatrical, like Damarung, where we're supposed to uplift each other. Or I like it when it's more like, in the shady like parts of the tavern, or like, in the alleyways, like making plans like Bikoline and like Vassal and stuff like that. The idea that you can offer so many different experiences with so many different LARPs, and then say, hey, if you're not really like able to gauge yourself in this one, you might actually be better off in that one. I think that's wonderful. I think that's like probably one of the most noble things we could do with LARP at this point.
Yeah. In Columbus here, we're super fortunate to have really strong communities. And what do we have? We have Amtgard, we have the SCA, we have a Bella group, and the local Dagger Hero chapter, they just went non-denominational, so whatever they're doing, right? But you have people from all over the board offering their own flavors of things. So it's super awesome to see a well, put together community that can support one another. And you're always going to have those people who say like, oh, mine's the best here. Oh, it was really nice that I went into these, or you can look them up online. I didn't go to Swordcraft. I'm going to try to go to Australia and check that out. If I do anything else in Australia too, right? I go down there to goddamn LARP. My wife would kill me. I'll go there. We don't see a thing to do, but we go down to swords. No way. But the big thing there was how diverse and accessible the field is when you're doing something with traditional LARP weapons. Like when I was up in Big Lane, there was people from all different age ranges. There was a huge population of women on the field. That's not something you see a whole lot in your full contact, high intensity LARPs, just for the sole basis of people being weight classed out, right? It's a lot harder for someone like my 5 foot tall, 115-pound wife to go on the field with farm boy linebacker Joe, who will make her eat shit. That sucks. But if you can go up to a game where shield checking or tackling or these certain things are barred, it kind of evens the field out. So somebody can. I mean, there was a big conversation about this. I'm not going to name out where I saw the post, but there was a conversation happening on Facebook where somebody asked, "Hey, if I find myself on a bridge battle and some guy twice my size, charge at me, what do I do?" And everybody was just saying, like, train around it. I'm trained to figure that out. Like,
yeah.
What? Like, no,
can't train for that.
Holy crap. Like, but, I'm also, I'm looking at things with a bit more of, like, a marketing perspective and a business perspective. Like, that's a liability. No. No.
Yeah.
I mean, can't be doing that.
It's all within expectations. Like, I've got big guys in my area, and for me, I'm like, I'm pretty tough, I'm pretty hardy, But if, for instance, like Zerker from Blood Horde charges me on the field with a power shield, I'm going to step out of the way. I'm not going to try to full force him because he weighs more than I do, and he's just a bigger, stouter guy. And it's just like, why would I? And that's another thing with American LARPs. It seems like it's always, just out brute force each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if you
Yeah,
look,
there's a
like,
lot of stuff like that. We are the only, so one, we're the only LARP in the world, or the LARP community in the world, right? I should say that. We're the only LARP community in the world that does Boffer weapons. We're also the only LARP community in the world that does missiles to head. There's a bunch of other ones too, but we think we're special, and I don't know why. I mean, if we want to look at like demographic ranges and how everything like is all kind of like mishmash, Australia is pretty close to your average American. Your average Australian, your average American is just one beer away from you, right?
yeah,
But like they don't do missiles to head because that would be absurd. It would be absolutely wild. Hand-on weapons. Actually, the only place that does allow headshots, and it's wild. Bickley allows headshots with weapons.
Yep.
But it's only 12 o'clock shots to the dome, no side swipes to the face. They'll allow 12 o'clocks. It was just super fucking weird. I'm sitting there behind the castle wall, like I'm in their castle, and all of a sudden this halberd just goes bop. What?
I mean, it makes sense though. Like, if I were to take a halberd and just go bop on your head, you'd be dead. So it's definitely
But LARP mechanics though, LARP mechanics make that okay for that to happen because one, they're doing sufficient force, right? So they're making sure that you can feel it, and no one's doing like your Mario hammer strike because that's not how you do attacks with a two-handed weapon. Like there's no goddamn way somebody would be doing a 12 o'clock strike with sufficient force. It just doesn't make sense because if you're going to try to you're going to have to be theatrical about it. You're going to have to wind up weird. Some guy's just going to be like, nope. No, you don't. You just exposed yourself for real, dude. No way. But even then, I mean, everybody was super awesome about it. They were really polite about it. Even the guys on the other side of the wall, they were just kind of like, getting that weird crank angle were super cool about it. I think they're speaking French, so they might have been assholes.
Yeah. No, but you said something about there's a lot more demographics in other things. I'm looking. I just Googled Ukraine Warhammer LARP, right? And the first picture is like a dude in Sigmarite cleric armor. Second picture is like a bunch of men at arms. Third one is another Bretonnian knight, and then right underneath of this, it's like female dwarf, dark elf, chaos warrior, Averland a woman Averland troop. There's just in some of these pictures, I just see more women in these LARPs, and I've seen those the combat on those fields, and that looks amazing, and it's fun, and people just seem to be enjoying themselves and having a good time. And a lot of people that'll play DAG, for instance, another thing I've noticed is archers in our games have this huge issue of people want to absolutely destroy them. If you're shooting archery and someone runs up to you and you call dead, they get incredibly pissed because they want to run up to you and reach back in a Tuesday and swing with their red and try to break your fucking knees.
Yeah,
it's definitely something I've noticed.
I never experienced that. I ran when I went in Bickley. I mean, they do a whole little thing with captains and units and squads and stuff like that because it's two giant big armies out there and they have to kind of do it. So I was in charge of a squad of some guys underneath me. We were on a skirmisher squad, but we oftentimes were to mix with archers because they're kind of doing the same skirmishing idea. None of them ever got the same kind of that you would see on a DAG field. And I think what's going on there, and if I were to make some sort of psychological thing there, is one, they're not out there to hurt each other. No one's going out there with the intention of, I'm going to go and be the best sword fighter out there. I mean, it's fun for your character, and it's a lot of character representation out there and to see what you're doing, but no one's going out there to roll the meta. There is no meta in a traditional LARP weapon game. There might be, right? There might be one these swords here, but it's not nearly as prevalent because when the the mission of the game is to reward players on so many more levels than just the 1v1s in the corner over there. There's so many more ways for you to play. There's so many more elevated ways for you to play. That meta just kind of stops being a thing.
Yeah.
No one's out there trying to hurt each other. If you go into Big Lean, you get 5 gold coins, and there's so many different ways for you to earn and lose that money, not just based on whatever game mechanics, but just like how the community just is now working 25 years into the game, right? Like you can put your buddies into a tournament. And there's like a upfront pot cost. What are you gonna put in? And we're like, oh, we're gonna put in 10 gold behind this guy, and it's gonna be great. Or maybe there's a wrestling thing, or there's an archery competition, or an actual jousting thing. There's ways for you to explore and develop your characters that don't involve shield checking and hurting each other.
Well, and that's another thing. Another thing with a lot of other LARPs that aren't American is also actually playing a character.
Yeah.
I think we did a bit of a video on that, but like there's a lot of people in DAG. It's like, oh, who are you? Oh, well, I'm just Joe Schmo. I'm Knight so and so. I'm a sword fighter. So what's your character?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really play a character. I don't do that role play stuff. It's like, really? You don't?
There's a huge stigma about role playing. I think especially in America, and I think that's really where it comes from. A lot of people are afraid to, myself included, back when I started, play this character, because not only was the stigma like against role playing, but DAG's own like catchphrase was "nobody cares about your backstory." That came up so many times. It really is a complete culture against making characters, making like progression. And so what changed for me is I met someone who was incredibly invested in that kind of stuff. Every event was an adventure for his character. Every single thing was progression, was experience, was him honing himself down and becoming who he is now with that character. And that's what really like turned me on to that idea of actually making something that could be like canonically, like almost like a series in my own way, something that I could work towards, something that I could develop and cultivate, is this character. And you can even have multiple characters through like different games, or even in the same one. And some games will literally have you play a character, and then there'll be a time jump where now you have to be a different character because your old character is dead. There's a time jump, so you got to come up with a different character, and it really forces you to be creative. Like, are you gonna be, like you said, Joe Schmo, who wields a sword and board on the line, or are you gonna be like St. John Smythe, the monk who was exiled for murdering a fellow monk, or something like, something interesting, something that gets people to kind of sit down and like, turn their ear to you because they're interested in hearing your story. It's those big things, and I think that America just, whether through media or through just how games have like, dealt with role play and like characters and progression, there is a big stigma against it.
I'm not the best role player out there. I'm not adverse to it. It's something that you have to kind of wrap your head around it. I'm also not an expert on this. Nobody at me afterwards, right?
I'm adding you. I'm gonna just at Boffer constantly.
It's I when I look at like role play, and when it comes to like LARPs, it's a lot of it is just you representing an exaggerated version of yourself. It's a lot of stuff that you're trying to bury, or maybe are thinking about on your day-to-day, that you're able to like play with in an actual like form with other people, right? It's making your own character, and a lot of the interesting things is trying to, one, expressing those things, because that's very powerful and that's very cathartic for you as a person to have that kind of self-agency out there on the field. But a lot of the times people look at that as the idea that they can't be the protagonist. And that's fine, and I understand that. I completely understand that, because I don't want to go out there and be the anime protagonist who's clearly the whole thing revolves around him because he has the best hair, right? I don't want that to be the case. I want to be, and I built my entire outfit based on something that could potentially blend in with the background. Blend in, make sure that you're okay, because one, you're not the only goddamn person on the field, right? You're not the protagonist. They're not the protagonist. They're not the protagonist. When I went up to Biko, I'm going to keep hitting the night. Let's see, how many times did he say, I'm going to go up to Biko? We're going to have a counter at the bottom for my...
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, we're going to have that. When I went up to Biko, take a shot. Okay. there was a couple of people out there who clearly were the protagonists, but that's also because they were like playing it for 20 years and everybody knew them. They were able to form the character of who they were, and it was interesting to like interact with them, like because I would have just been, hey, what's up, I'm Boba, how you doing, right? Like it wouldn't have been a thing. But these guys were super into it. They had their own accents. I think they also might have been French, so that might have been their thing. It's just a gamble. Roll the dice. Figure out who the hell anybody is. But some people were clearly putting on a bit. It was super interesting to interact with them because they had been living in these shoes, these well-worn shoes of characters, for 10+ years. And they knew them better than I know me. So it's a lot like playing Dungeons & Dragons. It's a lot like taking on a character for a theater, except for this time you only need to put in as much as you're comfortable with. If you just want to be soldier background guy who might do a kickflip on a shield, okay, cool, that's fine. Do that.
You need, because I mean, at the end, not everyone can be a general. Like most people are just going to be sergeant number. I mean, you were in charge of a squad. That's pretty big. Like you were one of hundreds, but I bet you all of the guys in your squad were like, yeah, I remember that guy, like dorky dude with the weird mustache. But
yeah, no, there's a bunch of guys that I ran with in my squad. I'm sure a couple of them are going to be watching this and say, hey, bunch of guys from Alaska, know that they're up there in this. But it was super rad to like interact with them. One, break them down as to like, hey, what's going on? How can I help out your character? I don't think I did that a whole lot with them. When I went up to Biko, it was all right. That's another shot. It was a matter of like trying to break the game because they weren't fighting the way that American fighters do, and they were taking their deaths and playing them out and like lamenting over the fact they died. And I was like, dude, it's a infinite res. Get back. It's a timer infinite res, man. Go get the spy. Go take the objective. Like, what are you doing? Like, throw yourself at that body. You're a skirmisher. You're not on the line, and you're not an archer. Go. Yeah, it was super interesting. But my second time, it was more of a like, you just start figuring out who, Boba is, and it turns out Boba is Lord Henry Boba, and he makes wine, and he is a mix between King George from Hamilton. Mix that person with Fraser Crane.
So what I'm hearing is giant, pretentious ass.
Bingo. But like in a way that people can play off of him, because I want to make that fun for everybody else, and that's a super fun character to play with. I have no more need for my own protagonist story. I'm happy to be maybe an antagonist or maybe just a one-line character in the background. That's okay. I'm having a lot of fun just seeing the world and exploring it in my own way. So me being able to be the Lord Farquaad to your Shrek, whatever, that's fun.
Great.
At least
well, and that's the thing. That's another thing is it's clearly all in the game.
Yeah.
And that's something you can do in a LARP that's good. I think is you can. And I've heard people say this about D&D before, and I'm sure there's people out there that have the same thing with like actual LARP. But like for me, I got into DAG, and the people I met made me a better person. So I'm sure that there are people who go to these big events and they find out something about themselves, or they get that confidence from being able to play someone that's, this hero or this, this villain. They can go, oh, wait, I can do this in real life. I don't have to be this larger than life guy. In this other world, I'm, just a soldier, but I've got a backbone there, or I can barter for goods. I don't know. I'm sure there's people out there that have stories that would love to share them about their growth with LARP as a catalyst. I mean, I don't know about you, but
I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's super like I keep saying, like it's cathartic. It's putting self-agency on a part of your personality that you might only get to express in a safe place like a video game, right? Like this is just a group play video game where you're bringing out these characters, you're interacting with a scenario, maybe that's one of the big things that a lot of Boffer LARPs have. That the problem is, one, they don't encourage this, or if they try to encourage it, there's not nearly enough like popular support just based on the average player, right? Because as much as we want to say like, hey, we're different, we're also bringing in fighters from DAGs, your Bells, your Amps, your HLs, who have probably played the game for 10+ years and who have never questioned like, oh, who is Sir Hellblade Demon Man? I don't do you know? I don't know. I don't know who that guy is. So it would be intimidating for them to walk into this and say, oh, what does that mean? Because we're doing a story now, and that's what's going on. And are you going to be a part of that story, or are you just going to wait till they say lay on? Right? Like,
yeah.
There's ways for you to interact with it. If that's your style, and all you really want to do is play the objective and get them kills, that's okay. That's fine. And there are games for that, and there's even roles within most LARPs for that. If you just want to be Skirmisher Squad number 2,
be a mercenary. There's a story. Yeah, there's a whole story. You could be like, if you just want to fight, you don't care about the politics. You're a mercenary. You go and you fight, and you can oh yeah, I'll fight for you. I don't care about who am I killing? What am I doing? Give me gold. I'm gonna go drink away.
Right? It's supporting another story. You can be the stick jock on the field at your average LARP, but you can be supporting the overall story, or maybe you find a buddy who's like, oh yeah, dude, fucking King rat shit. Yeah. Oh yeah, man, me and him go fucking back, right? So like you can support that player who has a more developed story. If you don't want to be, face first as a protagonist character or whatever, and you really just want to show up for kills, that's great. There's ways for you to still support your friends because it's a group effort, right? So it's not just about, hey, did Jake have a good time? It's hey, did Becca have a good time? Or did Brandon have a good time? Right? It's everybody involved, making sure that they're communal, fun events that literally when they take this, the mask off, right? They can go back to their daily lives. They can go get a beer later, right? It could be no big deal. There's a lot of egos that stay the same off the field, and that's super disconcerting to me. And that's the reason why I left DAG in a big way from my personal journey. Was like I kept running into people who I met on the field, and like I did the whole like, all right, cool, what's up? And they didn't change.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely, I definitely on the DAG field especially, I played a more brutal, like, very samurai, right? Brutal, like, I'm going to kill you, come on, is this the best you've got type character. Then afterwards I'll take off the helmet, walk up, hey man, you good? You good? Like, yeah, we hope you had a good time, blah, blah, blah. And people will be like, who the fuck are you? Like, what the hell? You were like screaming at me that you were gonna cut me in half 10 seconds. And it's fun. It's fun being the bad guy. It's fun giving people that experience of a bit more of a, role play in the live act portion.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you want to be the orc. Sometimes you want to get killed by Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas. Sometimes it's okay to be that person who gets struck down, because next time you're out there, you're gonna be what's the guy with the bow who just kills Boromir. Like, you can just be that guy. But you're trading that. You're trying to be like, oh, I am going to escape for the weekend. Who am I going to be this week? What kind of story do I want to? Do I want to, be something different? That's super awesome. It's super supportive, and I think that is a super awesome form of therapy, and we all fucking need it right now. It'd be good to get some of that stuff out, and especially when afterwards they can just like, take the mask off and say like, hey, great game out there. That was super cool. I love what your character did. Thanks for the heals. Thanks for the support. Let's go get a beer later. I'm also a human being with a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, I know there's like a whole orc face on me right now, but I'm let's go hang out. It's
the fake military shit, or like whatever our unit was just doing. Like, we're done. Like, that's over. Yeah. We're cool. Like, we're just hanging out. Like, you don't have to fucking keep calling me captain, right? Like that kind of stuff. Everything we talked about, the difference between buffers and latex. We talked about the next rag. We talked about role playing. We talked about outfit.
A lot of good stuff here. And if you guys, if you guys like this shit and you've never met us or Boffer before, you should go check out his videos on LARP review. Do you have a YouTube channel? I think you do, right?
Yeah.
I'll have a link below. Yeah, he'll have a link below. We'll drop our link below. And hope you guys enjoyed. Boffer, is there anything else? Anyone else you need to plug here?
Yeah, so I mean, you guys are watching this on my channel too. So by all means, I'm gonna be linking y'all below. Check out LARP Raw, formerly known as
No, no, don't do that to us.
LARP Raw. Great bunch of guys. Go take a look at them. Definitely you gonna see more of them my videos. Bit longer than my normal take, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Plus,
I
you're
think
gonna see a
that's
bit more of my haircut and stuff like that. I'm sure everybody's all mad about that.
100%. So, Rob, you want to see us all out?
All right. Thank you for watching, everyone. Go get vaccinated. Go play safely. Take to the field when the CDC says your area is good for it, etc. Everyone, go be safe out there. Hydrate, stretch before you fight. All that good stuff, and we will see you next time.